Welcome into our In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com. Tom Leach, along with Keeneland's Director of Simulcasting, Jim Goodman. And we are taking a look at the Friday Breeders' Cup card for Grade 1s. And then we will be back with another In the Money podcast for the 9 Grade 1s on the Saturday card. And always great wagering opportunities. Jim, you were telling me that you like the rolling pick threes on Breeders' Cup Day.
I do. I think that's the best value, and I think all you got to do is catch one, and then key it with some horses in the before and after races, and it pays unbelievable. I mean, you'll take a parlay that might be $400, and it'll pay $1,500, $1,800. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for rolling pick three value, because you're looking at these races and you see a horse that's 20-1 on the morning line, and the horse just ran second at Grade 1 2 weeks ago. So it's an incredible day of wagering, and just got to get lucky.
All right, well, let's go to the 6th race on Friday, the Juvenile Turf. 2-year-olds going a mile on the grass, which is going to be extra firm there at Santa Anita from all accounts. And how did you see this one shaking out?
Yeah, there is an outside chance of rain Friday night, but nothing on Friday. So certainly on Friday it'll be firm. This one, the Juvenile Turf, the last 6 winners have been overseas horses, either prepped in Canada or in Europe. And War Envoy is my pick here. It's not a strong pick, but I was looking at the ARC undercard where she ran and ran a nice fifth by, just got beat a length and a quarter by Glen Eagles in full mast, and very consistent. Aiden O'Brien comes over with always a loaded gun, and I'm going to take War Envoy on top. I'm going to use her with Hootenanny, the 5. Wesley Ward trains this filly, and she beat 23 horses in the Windsor Castle Stakes when they took her over to Ascot, and she came back and ran at Deauville and just got beat by half a length. So I think she's probably going to be a deserving favorite, but she's never been a mile. She's been 5 furlongs, 4.5 on the poly track to open her career. So I don't know about stretching out to the mile for her. The horse that I think's got a shot at a price is an American horse called Startup Nation for Chad Brown. If you look back at the With Anticipation at Saratoga, the Grade 2, won by 4.5 lengths. She came back at 1-2 and got beat in the Pilgrim, but I'm going to toss that one and think she's going to run back with Anticipation, and that might be the most visually impressive of all the American contenders. I will go a little bit deeper than pick 4, but my pick is War Envoy on top of Hootenanny and Startup Nation.
I'm going to be all about Euros in just about every opportunity. So I like 3 of them here. I'm going to take the one that is the biggest price of the morning line, and that's the 9, Actabanti, coming out of a Group 1, and I think 12-1 on the morning line. And I would just use this horse, War Envoy, the 7, Commemorative, the 4. Box all 3 of them in an exacta. Use all 3 of them in the spread out for the horizontals. Startup Nation, I do like a little bit. Another price horse coming out of a Keeneland race, out of the 14-hole, Danny Boy, by all accounts training spectacularly. Awful post, but he does run from way back, so maybe he drops in and works out a trip and maybe finishes late to hit the board. But I think one of the Euros is going to win this. And I took a stand against Hootenanny just because of what you mentioned as far as hadn't been close to this distance yet. 7th race is the Dirt Mile, and it is actually sometimes not a mile distance, but in this case it is, but it's around 2 turns. Golden Sense is the defending champion, and a lot of people will single this horse. Listening and reading a lot of the coverage, there's some of the guys that follow this closely that seem to be thinking Golden Sense doesn't look quite as good as last year. So I'm not sure I'll go single with Golden Sense. Well, I'm not going to go single with Golden Sense. And if Golden Sense doesn't win it, then you could get a big price. Got to see how the track plays. It was very much speed favoring last year. I have to think because they took so much heat. They changed it by Saturday. I have to think they'll do everything to make sure it's a fair opportunity on the dirt course on Friday. So I'm going to go with Golden Sense just because of the class, and he's got a great draw down on the rail. But I also like Golden Ticket, the 6, and Bronzo, the 7, the South American Invader, who's training well at Santa Anita. Both are good prices, and I like both of those horses. I like Golden Ticket. Could have won it last year on a fair track. And for horizontal wagers, I'll take those 3. But Golden Sense, Golden Ticket, Bronzo, and if you want to add a 4-horse exacta box, I'd maybe add Fed Biz. What about you?
I like Golden Sense, but I'm like you. I don't think he's a single. I think all the buzz is, he's the speed horse. He drew the rail. He's going to love it. And Bayerano takes the lead and never looks back. And he could. He certainly could win the race easily. He's 2 for 5 at a mile, 3 for 6 at Santa Anita. He's going to be 7 to 5 or shorter. But I'm like you. I think maybe the track may play a little fairer on Friday. I agree that they took a lot of heat for it being so speed favoring last year. In the hopes that somebody runs with Golden Sense, I'm going to take Capiture, the 9. If Vickers in trouble and Fed Biz both go out with Golden Sense, and I don't think they're going to let Golden Sense get an easy lead because I think the race would be over. So I think Garcia and Fed Biz and Johnny Velasquez on Vickers in trouble would probably not let Golden Sense get away. And if the track is playing fair, I like Capiture, and he would be the beneficiary of the speed duel. Fed Biz, the 8, is the other horse. I'm going to go 3 deep in the pick 4 here, the 1, 8, 9. Fed Biz is the third horse. Loves Santa Anita, 3 for 6 to distance, and nearly beat Shared Belief in the Austin again. And that says enough right there to say that Fed Biz is for real. So those 3, 1, 8, 9.
The next race is the Juvenile Fillies Turf at a mile on the turf for 2-year-old fillies. And you've got a couple of, I think, well-meant Euros that are drawn in 13 and 14. So it makes for an interesting handicapping challenge here, as all of these races are, but that just adds another dimension to it. Jim, how did you see this one?
When I first looked at this, I was deciding between Chad Brown's 4 horses because I think when you give Chad 4 bullets, he's awfully tough. But Wesley Ward's filly Sunset Glow, coming out of 2 polytrack races at Del Mar and having been well-traveled to Ascot, finished second over there in the Albany Stakes, I think she's got a lot of upside, and I'm going to take her on top. Lady Eli, the 4 for Chad Brown out of the Miss Griot, and Asela, the foreign horse, coming over with Frankie Dettori riding, is probably the best European shot in here. I'm going to use a bunch of them in the pick 4, but Sunset Glow is my pick. Lady Eli and Sunset Glow is my exacta box.
I am going to spread out a bunch here in the pick 4 that we'll talk about in a minute. So obviously I don't have a strong opinion in this spot. I'm going to take a shot, though, with a bit of a price. Isabella Sings for Pletcher. This horse comes out of got narrowly beaten in the Natalma at Woodbine, and that's the same race he used to get a win in this Juvenile Fillies Turf at Churchill a few years back. And with a couple of really good Euros drawn outside, I like the 5, Isabella Sings, a little bit for the price. I went back and looked at the Miss Grillo, and Lady Eli was very impressive. But Partisan Politics, one of the other Chad Brown horses, had a lot of trouble in there and finished really strong. So I think at a much bigger price than Lady Eli, I could definitely be talked into Partisan Politics. Chevalier is the horse that Gary Stevens is going to ride for Chad Brown. I think that one's intriguing. Reina de Batteria, I was really impressed with her win at Keeneland, and she'll be running late if they get a hot pace going with all these 2-year-old fillies. And then the 13 and the 14 prize exhibit and qualify out on the outside. So I'm going to use all of those plus the other European you mentioned, the 2 in the pick 4. But for the wager, my pick is Isabella Sings, and I'll do an exacta box with her and those 3 Chad Brown horses, Lady Eli, Partisan Politics, and Chevalier. 9th race is the Distaff to wrap up the Friday card. 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares going a mile and an eighth. And yet close hatches in here that had she won the Spinster, she'd be a huge favorite. So you got to decide, is she over the top or will she bounce back? Untappable speed figures haven't gotten back to where they were when she won the Oaks in the spring, but she did win the Cotillion, a Grade 1, and she's training spectacularly. So this was a tough one for me. And if one of those 2 doesn't win it, then they could light up the tote board. So I ended up going with Untappable just because when I see an Asmussen horse go 58-3 as she did on the 19th of October, that catches my eye. And then came back with a typical slow half for Asmussen. And in the 10 hole, she's drawn a great spot to stalk. A little uneasy that she ran so poorly at Santa Anita in her only race there, but off that training move, I'm going to take Untappable to win. I'm going to use Tis Midnight, the 2, for Baffert, who I think is dangerous. The 6, Stanwyck, for John Sheriffs. I don't really think will win, but I could see hitting the board at a price. And the 1, L'Amour de ma vie, from Europe, entered in the Filly and Mare Turf, but goes here, or pre-entered in the Filly and Mare Turf, but goes here on the dirt. And, if closed hatches and untappable aren't at their best, then this thing's wide open. So I'd like to have her in there somewhere. But untappable is going to be the pick for me, and I'll use her with those others. And I'm going to just toss closed hatches and bet that she's over the top. What about you?
I agree 100%. I think Untappable has not lost to a filly in 2014. And you look at the race, everybody got off her bandwagon when she took on the boys in the Haskell. She had a horrible trip. Just absolutely got pounded at the start, 3 wide all the way around, and just had no chance to win the Haskell. Comes back and really had to work hard to win the cotillion, but won. Got her nose up. And you go back to the spring, she was the best horse or filly in the country. So I'm going to take her. She's going to be my single in the pick 4. I'm going to take a stand on her. I like a horse that you mentioned, Tis Midnight, just behind Beholder and the Zenyatta. And Beholder would be favored here if she hadn't scratched out. So I think Tis Midnight has a big shot if Untappable doesn't fire. And I'm going to throw in closed hatches. Something happened at Keeneland. I was out in the paddock before the race, and she looked absolutely fantastic. And then they took her back in the saddling stall, and Mott looked at her one more time and brought her back out. And I just think she wasn't right that day for some reason. He hasn't said there's an excuse, but she just had a bad day. And you toss that race completely, and she's right there. So I think Untappable, and I'm going to box her with closed hatches and Tis Midnight as the top 3 picks there. But take a stand with Untappable in the pick 4.
And speaking of the pick 4, I'm going to take the 3 Euros that I mentioned and also throw Danny Boy in there just for a big price in the first leg. I'm going to use Golden Sense, Golden Ticket, and Bronzo. Then I'm going to use the 3 Euros plus the 3 Chad Browns, the Pletcher horse Isabella Sings, and also Reina de Bateria. So that's 8 in the Juvenile Phillies turf. And then I'm just going to single Untappable and take a stand with her and keep my fingers crossed. What about you?
Well, I'm not going 8 deep in your horse in your race. I'm only going 7 deep. I'm going 8 deep in the first leg, and I'm using the 1 Wet Sail, the 3 Luck of the Kitten, 4 Commemorative, 5 Hootenanny, 7 War Envoy, 9 Actabante, as you pronounced it, the 10 Startup Nation, and the 14 Danny Boy. So I'm going to go 8 deep in the lead leg. Then I'm going 1, 8, 9 in the second leg with Golden Sense, Tapiture, and Fed Biz. And then I'm going 7 deep in the third leg. Let me get my papers here. The Juvenile Phillies turf, using the 1 Partisan Politics, the 2 Asela, the 3 Sunset Glow, the 4 Lady Eli, the 6 Civilary, the 7 Reina de Bateria, and the 14 Qualify. So that is 8 by 3 by 7 by singling Tapiture in the Untappable in the last race for $84.
Well, we were both taking a stand with Untappable, and hopefully she can get us home if we're fortunate enough to be in position by then. Just a reminder, Keeneland's going to be open early, I guess, for simulcasting earlier than usual, right?
Actually, the first race is not on Friday until 1 o'clock.
That's right, with the time change.
Actually, at 1 o'clock on Friday, I think the first race is at Aqueduct. So Santa Anita's first post is 1:15, so everything's kind of different there. But it opens at 1 o'clock, and we'll be open all the way through. The distaff goes off at, I think, 7:35. They have 1 race after that. But then on Saturday, we'll open at the regular time at 12 o'clock, and first post, I think, at Aqueduct is 12:25 that day.
Good deal. Best of luck to everybody with your Breeders' Cup wagers for Friday, and we'll be back with another podcast on the Saturday card here for the In the Money podcast at KeenelandSelect.com.